Hello everybody, welcome back to today's video. Today we are going to be going over the U.S. House prediction for the Republicans' best case scenario. I encourage you guys to watch the video about the Democrats' best case scenario. Today we'll be doing it for the Republicans. I am still taking into effect that the Democrats should at least be slightly favored than usual just because they're the party out of power this time around. However, if something like this happens, Republicans will probably hold out their own, similar to what they did last year in 2024. Or if not slightly better or slightly worse. Probably around the same as that. So this episode will be going all about that. So, what do I think is going to happen? Well, we'll first start off from the West Coast. If my computer stops glitching, I intend to fill out the safe seats that Democrats would win regardless by a safe margin. Democrats would get all their safe seats. Washington, this one would become likely. Oregon, they get their safe seats. However, these two become likely. And Mary Gluesenkamp-Perez only holds on by a tilt margin, kind of like how she barely won in 2022. Very, very close. I just think that it's out of reach. It is a Donald Trump district. I just think that she's strong enough incumbent to hold on. In California, they have their safe seats. These two will become likely because they have Republican incumbents running. You have that. Democrats still get their safe seats out of their redrawn map. It is not favorable towards the Republicans, but that's basically what it is. Adam Gray would probably narrowly lose. Josh Harder wins by likely. Jim Costa by likely. George Whiteside's likely. You see these go down to likely or possibly leads. You see that. Mike Levin probably wins by just under 5. Same as David Min. He probably is likely. Democrats still win all of their safe districts regardless. Again, it's been redrawn to favor them. Fill these all out. That would become likely as well. That is about it. They still have this. You would have Republicans do well the rest of their. So you'd have, obviously they win all of their PAC districts. You'd have David Valadao win just barely over 5. Overperform Donald Trump's margins. Darrell Issa would narrowly hold on, probably around by a point. This district obviously stays safe. And Derek Tran would probably lose ever so slightly by the skin of his teeth. Now, this theoretically could happen if the top of the ticket in California doesn't do too well. However, if a Republican does well enough, this will be the outcome. And then Adam Gray would go down very, very narrowly. That's how California would be. Obviously, Washington and Oregon, they win all their safe seats. Idaho, Montana, safe. This district would become safe. Pretty much win all these safe seats. Alaska, Nick Begich wins by a safe margin. Arizona, a lot of it stays the same as it has been. You'd see Democrats always win their safe seats. This seat would hold on by a lead margin. Siscomani would hold on. You'd see David Schwicker's seat stay Republican. And that is about it for that. You would see the Democrats still hold on. I'd say Susie Lee narrowly holds on in Nevada. Obviously, be very close. It is a Donald Trump district, as you can tell right here. You do have some Kamala Harris districts, which, again, not a super favorable map. Republicans aren't really favored there. If I can get the computer to stop glitching, I can fill out those districts. These would be only leans. And Susie Lee would just barely hold on. I just think that it's just too narrow of a Trump district for her to lose. Safe. Arizona, Democrats keep their safe districts. New Mexico, these stay safe. This would only be a lean margin. I think Gabriel Vasquez still wins. He's a strong enough incumbent. Colorado stays pretty much the same. You would see Jeff Hurd win by a likely margin. Lauren Boebert wins by over 10. This district stays over 10. Gabe Evans wins by slightly larger margin, probably around a point. Republicans hold that. A lot of the Great Plains states stay pretty much the same. Oklahoma, all safe. That is about it. Minnesota, a lot of uncompetitive districts. Basically, how it would pan out. You'd see how, I'd say, Republicans would still probably lose Nebraska's second district in general. However, if it is won by Kamala Harris +4, I don't really see Republicans holding on to that. So I'd say that the Democrat would only win by a tilt margin. But I still see that race flipping. Sharice Davids only wins by likely. Hawaii stays safe. Texas, you would see them kind of crap the bed in Texas. They won't do too well this. Again, these districts are not fair. Not a super fair map, kind of like how California, basically this district would stay over safe. They pretty much just match Donald Trump's margins in the state. Basically like that. So it seems that Henry Cuellar got pardoned by Donald Trump, so it's hard to imagine him losing. That might have helped him, better or for worse, but he seems to just overperform the top of the ticket by a lot in this district. I really just can't see him going down. It really just seems too out of reach. In fact, the district actually got slightly bluer down ballot. It did get more Republican. Donald Trump won it by around 10 points. I just think that has enough bipartisan support to be able to hold on in there. So I'd say Vicente Gonzalez goes down by around 5 points for a Republican best case scenario. Arkansas stays safe Republican. Missouri, they have a new map. Everything's safe. Il Wagner seat moves up to safe Republican. Not super much competitive districts around here. Basically, Democrats still win their packed districts. Illinois, again, not a super fair map. However, everything stays the same. Eric Sorensen would win by likely. Probably stay around the same as before. Win all their districts. That's about it. We're still sticking to maps, so the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, has not been overturned, so I'm not counting any maps that have been theorized. So I'm only using maps that are current, not theorized or rumored maps. You'd see in Florida, Jared Moskowitz would just barely hold on. Again, it seems to be a strong enough incumbent. You'd see this district, it's pretty competitive down ballot. It is held by an overperformer Democrat, Darren Soto. In this situation, you'd assume that he retires. The Democrat to replace him would just barely hold on to be tilt. That's safe. And then Republicans still win all of their safe districts. This one would move to safe Republican. Best case scenario for the GOP. This is what the map would look like, pretty much. That's about it. North Carolina Democrats win their packed districts. So in a Republican best case scenario, these two districts move over safe. Nothing is competitive. I think what we're most likely going to see are maps that we're going to see something in between the best case scenario for the Democrats and the best case scenario for the Republicans. Again, Democrats should at least be slightly favored because of the party out of power. In this scenario, Republicans all do well. They pretty much match the 2024 numbers. So Virginia kind of gets a little bit interesting because, again, they are rumored to have a new map that favors them. However, we're still sticking with the maps that we have. So in this case, Republicans would win all their safe districts. Rob Whitman would win by over 10. You'd see Jen Kagan's hold on by leans. You've seen how Democrats rebounded big time. I would still say that they pretty much stays the same since before. Obviously, when they're safe district here, you'd have this. I'd say Suhas Subramaniam underperformed the top of the ticket by a lot last year in 2024. He's not the strongest incumbent. I am projecting that he wins by over 10 points in the regular scenario. In the best case scenario, he wins way by over 10. Best case scenario for the Republicans, he probably wins by likely just barely over 5. And then you see Eugene Vidman's district. It's sort of leaned slightly towards the Democrats. It's voted Republican a few times, especially in 2021. However, the district still leans Democratic, just because we've seen how Virginia trended very far to the left in 2025. I still think this district is slightly too out of reach. I'd say he is not the best incumbent either. He only won by around 2 points. He underperformed in a narrow Harris district. Just because Virginia has just trended towards the Democrats, I think that the 7th district in Virginia is just too out of reach. If we see it balance out, we'll see, but I still think this district is still out of reach for the Republicans. Maryland stays about the same. Pretty much, Andy Harris is probably going to stay in office. I don't think Maryland's going to redistrict. I really just don't think they will move that back out to the Midwest. These two districts would stay safe Republican. Zach Nunn wins by Lynn's margin. Marionette Miller Meeks, best case scenario for the Republicans, wins by a lean margin by just around over a point. Derek Van Orden would win by likely, and then pretty much stay the same. Minnesota all stays the same. This would become leans. That's about it. Michigan, again, safe Democrat seats, would win that. Third would become leans. This would become leans. I know this is a Trump district, but I think Kristen McDonald-Rivet is just a strong enough incumbent to be able to win. I might just put it out of tilt just because the topic of the video. But you should still see Republicans win all their districts. Best case scenario, John James's district stays likely. Tom Barrett pretty much just wins by the same margin as he won last time, by around 3 points. Indiana is using their map again, so we're sticking to that. Frank Mervan would win by lean in a Republican best case scenario. Stays the same. In Ohio, they have a new map. Democrats will win their 2 PAC districts, and Republicans would get their safe margins in all of their safe seats. 14th would be safe. Max Miller would win by over 10. Marcy Kaptur would go down by a likely margin. And Greg Landsman would lose by around a point. He does seem like a strong enough incumbent, so I'd say he just narrowly goes down. You'd see Amelia Sykes. I don't think she would lose. The district got a little bit bluer. It is a Kamala Harris +3 district. They kind of changed it a little bit. She would only win by around a few points. That is basically it for Ohio. We now move on to the Keystone State or Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. There's a lot of competitive districts. You'd see, in the best case scenario, the 17th would go down to leans. Actually, I think Deluzio is a strong enough incumbent. It would only be likely. Democrats obviously get their safe districts. The 6th district in Pennsylvania, I guess it'll be safe. I could go down to likely. I think it'll stay safe, Democrat. Republicans win all their safe districts. Fitzpatrick wins by a safe margin. And then you have the 3 competitive districts. You would see Scott Perry hold on by around a point. I don't think he's going to win just because he's facing a strong challenger. He's won before, so I definitely think it's possible Scott Perry wins. But in this scenario, we would definitely assume that the Democrat who came close to beating Scott Perry last year does not win the primary, and Scott Perry faces a more progressive Democrat who's less funded, less establishment, and doesn't have the power to take off Scott Perry. We'll see how that ends up going. Brian McKenzie would win by a lean margin. Competitive district in Pennsylvania, you got some of the Lehigh Valley, the Poconos. It's the most competitive congressional district, in my opinion, in Pennsylvania. So we'll really have to see how this district goes. Rob Bresnahan would win by a lead margin as well. It's basically matches the 2024 margins. New Jersey, you would assume that it would go back to 2024 margins. I just doubt it. You saw Democrats kind of rebounded here in New Jersey with Mikey Sherrill's victory. Quite a bit of a victory. You'd see Tom Kean win by around likely, just because he seems to be strong, and he would just match 2024's margins. Democrats, they would still win their safe districts in New Jersey. This would become likely safe. Everything's safe. Josh Gottheimer's not losing by under 10. He seems to be a strong incumbent. And then we will move on to New York. Democrats get their safe seats across the board. See, even that is a toss-up for now. All right. It gets really interesting. You'll see how Republicans will still get their safe districts. Now it gets very interesting because you have a lot. I'll put it to you this way: the way the House elections go in New York really depends on how Kathy Hochul does, because she's an underperformer. You saw how she didn't do too well back in 2022. You saw Lee Zeldin come within 6 points of knocking her off. If she wins by a similar margin to that, you see possibly Bruce Blakeman at the top of the ticket could drag down these Democratic incumbents in New York, which could really be harmful to them. If something were that to happen, in the best case scenario, you'd see Joe Mannion win by leans margin. Josh Riley, he seems to be a strong enough incumbent. I think he would only win by a tilt margin. Or I'd say tilt Republican. Kamala Harris only won it by a point. You'd see that one flip. And you'd still see Pat Ryan win. He just seems to be a strong enough incumbent, but it would only be around a point. And you would see Michael Lawler win by a likely margin. That's basically what would happen in the best case scenario. You see Tom Suozzi, he would probably just narrowly go down, as well as Laura Gillen. So that's basically how it looks. Pretty much I would say Democrats still win all of their safe districts in New England. Jonna Hayes' district would go down to likely. This would be only lean Democratic. Yeah, that'd be lean. And then that is basically it. And then, best case scenario, Paula Page would flip this by likely. So that is the House prediction for the Republicans' best case scenario. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, this isn't my actual prediction. This is just a prediction if the Republicans' best case scenario, and they do really well in 2026. If you didn't watch the video about the Democrats' best case scenario, and you want to see how they would do if they did really well, check out that video as well. Appreciate you guys for watching the video. Come back if you like election content, and I'll see you in the next video.